My dad started volunteering before I did because I was not old enough. You have to be 12 at that time to volunteer, and I was not 12 yet. So as soon as I was 12, I started. But he's also a computer programmer, so he's into computers and all that stuff. So he got me into computers and all that stuff.
She saw how much I enjoy being here and followed.
It's nice to be able to use your skill to give back.
Absolutely.
That's really fantastic.
Really is.
And as a family, that's a beautiful thing, you guys.
I have a 13-year-old as well who volunteers.
That's fantastic.
He's in school right now.
That's good too.
So is that kind of a family requirement now?
No, we all enjoy this.
It's like an initiative.
Kramden's just such
Is
an
that what it
amazing
is?
organization.
That's great. And so do you all come in together and work?
Usually, we generally come in on Wednesday work nights. Here most every Wednesday, but if I'm traveling, they still come in and out. They don't need me anymore.
Are they Callaway or you technology?
No, I'm a biology major, but it's like a side hobby. Yeah, exactly. That is. Well, thank you for it too. Really.
You know where you think about going? Not a lot of sure, but I like their program strategy and other companies, technology companies. Right on that for now, so probably sort of a public experience. I thought it was in West Area.
If they have enough but usually we can have a see where we work on them for 6 years before it gets to that point.
It's funny, we actually had an issue this morning. All 3 of these machines won't boot from the network. But, they're old, they've been donated, we have another way we can install, it's just challenging.
Are you guys volunteers?
Quincy Campbell from Meta. So, we're working on these. At Meta, what I love is that we come here, we volunteer, we also donate some of the hardware so we can use them and recycle them. And then at the same time, we have also volunteer programs, like 40 hours per year for employees to volunteer for causes that they care about. And a lot of them come here, so we have employee champions like Quincy, and he organized all of the volunteering, get people here to use their time, and then some of the laptops that we donate is refurbished, and all of that gets reported to our signature program, Data Explorer, which is the first currently in the nation, actually the world, on to support kids to and introduce an actual course to the community and use the United Nations Sustainability Goals.
For what age group? For how
Middle schoolers.
That's
Yeah, so
That's
we are
really
starting them at about 6th grade on,
really good.
and all the way up to 8th grade. So we launched actually in North Carolina, Durham.
Keep going.
Yeah, it's great. So thanks to Quincy who brought the partnership.
We have ongoing relationship with Kramden, so every third Friday next, I think till December, we'll be here.
Yeah.
That'll be very cool.
Yeah, we have a no meeting Friday, so Quincy scheduled all of our no meeting Fridays to come to volunteer.
I knew that was going to happen.
Exciting.
That always happens.
I love this concept.
You can ask me all about it.
Then you can head to the Outer Banks.
Nice.
Yeah.
We spend so much time investing in fiber to make sure that we can get it to people. But
Bridging the divide. And that is how, we wanted a 360 approach is what we do at Meta, to really say at every stage, trying to be involved and just good.
Nice.
Are you here about?
Hi. Yeah, I'm a support technician here. I started as an intern from Wake Tech Community College, and I just started working here full time. It is the best job I've ever had. I love working here. I do a lot of tech support with our lead tech support team, and I also help with the
Like a real community atmosphere.
I know.
It's really great. Everybody's on.
Our environment is tougher, but we're grateful for what you do. Great.
You and I have been around a long time, but we can still appreciate all the great things.
Yes, yeah. Good time.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Interesting to see how this operation has grown. When did you get that in? What year did you first get involved?
2008. That's 9 years ago. She was a year after me. She was about a year and a half after.
Yes, I just graduated last year.
Just a round table on that side. About the last conversation takes out of the news.
Right, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah, like, you probably don't know, like, what we like most on.
Probably 11 out of 40th.
Okay.
Yeah. The event wraps it around it.
Okay.
We get started. Live shots here.
Noon shot. I may get 12:30 or I may tell them to just don't worry about me.
Okay. Yeah, we would most likely be around by then.
That's funny. This is probably 20 years. Yeah.
Marco!
Yeah, I am.
Here's one.
Great family. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm excited that you guys are here and doing this.
Like I said, Kramden is really such an amazing organization. They do so many great things. I'm kind of honored to be part of it.
Well, people who are working, trying to get mental health support, they don't have the device.
Absolutely. Connectivity.
All of that. You know, it's a holistic approach.
I had the text fired up to Martha that I hadn't sent yet because I was going to wait and see what happened. But asking me if it should just be a live center thing where they like roll all the things.
They could have rolled them off. If they did, then this is going to be a real quick.
Okay. Well, maybe I call editors now and ask. I don't know. Although if it's just a live center, they probably don't need video. Okay, let me update.
You made it okay?
We figured out the secretary is underemployed. There you go.
So what's the background? Technician. So started here about a year and a half.
That's a real name.
Yes. This is the most fun job I've
Really?
Thank you. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Of course. Sorry.
Very nice to meet you. All right. This way? John?
Of course, yes, sir.
Sir, have you come with us?
So the next part of our tour is our big warehouse. You see we have stacked up some of our inventory, some of the devices that come in. And at this time I want to introduce Jason Ricker, our Director of Technical Operations, tell you a little bit about the actual recycling process, the decision process, and then this big cage.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything you see in this building is donated equipment. Some of it's from small companies, large companies, individuals, you name it. They brought it to us to be refurbished and recycled. So everything in here has a sheet on it and lets you know where in the process we are in the refurbishing process. So some of it's getting recycled. So anything second gen, Core I and older gets immediately recycled. It goes to Statesville to Sprout Recycling. They're an R2 certified recycler and everything goes there. Everything that we can reuse goes into the cage first. So in here we have devices, drives, personal stuff that could have your family photos, your tax documents, private company secrets, you name it.
Could be another business model.
Could be another business model, exactly. Or crypto wallets, right? We always talk about that. There's definitely a chance we have millions of dollars of crypto wallets come through here. We'll never know because everything that goes in the page gets white screen. So it goes through a DVD to half white. That basically means that every single sector on that drive is getting written into a 1 and a 0 3 times. That's a 10 or 12-year-old Department of Defense standard that we follow for everything that comes through the building, regardless if it's your grandma's drive or from a law firm or from a Fortune 100 company. If it passes that process, it comes out of the cage with a green dot and a signature on it, and that goes for reuse. Anything that doesn't pass that process gets put into those locked totes that you see right there, and those get transferred chain of custody to our recycler, and they get shredded through a giant shredder down to 3 millimeter size, so the data is completely rendered useless and unrecoverable.
What would cause it not to work? And you have to do
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there are 1,000 answers for that. If you look right now, our tech, Alex, is actually going through. We have a new model of drive we've never worked with before, and we're trying to decide what the error code is to decide if it's something we can reuse or not. It's generally hardware failures, though. So SSDs that we get a lot of now have a life cycle and a total read-write cycle count, and once it gets past that, certain sectors are blocked off and can't be reused again. The problem with that is those sectors once contained data, so if we can't wipe that sector to make sure the data's gone, we can't reuse the drive. And it also means the health of the drive is failing, so we don't want to redeploy that to one of our clients and have it only last 6 months or a year. We want to make sure that it's good for reuse and can last the lifetime of the device with our client. Once it comes out, it goes through the refurbishing process, as you guys saw over there. So that's what our volunteers actually get involved. It's only staff in the cage. That's sort of our industry best practice for data liability. After it's wiped, it all gets paired back together, gets an OS dumped on it, which I think you guys saw and probably talked about over there. And then you guys
What are like 1,000 at? Like, I know that they're treating that
scary and carried inside.
side by 1,000 thread. Is that the guys?
Yes. Last year, we are pursuing that. It involves auditors and an entire development process. So we're following that to the T. We do not have that certification yet, but that is one we're pursuing. What we currently do is provide a certificate of destruction for all of our donors. So if you're a large company or an individual and you request a certificate of destruction, it essentially says that Kramden takes all liability of that device and all the data contained within it, that we will make sure and ensure that it is destroyed up to industry best certifications and has my signature on it. So that's the assurance we give to everyone across the board, and we treat every device the same. So if it's a big company or an individual, it's going through the exact same process to make sure that there's no holes in it, that something could go out of here.
So people can bring a device and they know.
It's going to be, and we get, and that's something we talk about all the time. We have front door donations, which are individuals. You know, it's somebody's grandmother that comes in and wants to make sure her tax doc can see the drive, right? So the older things, back 15 years ago, it took 4 or 5 hours per drive. So we would run them at the end of the day, run them overnight. We had a room that would heat up with all the old drives spinning. Now with SSDs, it takes about 3 minutes per drive. Because it's quick. It's basically flipping a bit, right? So it's no longer going sector by sector. It's flipping every bit, flipping it again, verify.
SSDs are the chips. They're just chips.
Yeah, they're solid state. So it means there's no spinning or mechanical device inside. It's just bits on a solid state chip. Any other questions?
Thank you so
No
much.
problem, guys. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Jason.
No
We're going to go
problem.
this way and back to kind of where we started. As you see, we have...
A lot of work. I'll say.
A lot of work.
the parts that we got
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Kramden Institute. I'm David Price, the U.S. representative for Durham County and the surrounding areas, the 4th Congressional District, which, of course, does. This is familiar territory. This is a wonderful organization, as I'm sure you picked up if you didn't know already, and it's been my pleasure to tout their virtues and work with Kramden for many years. It's great to welcome our U.S. Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, our Governor, Roy Cooper, and many others who you will meet in the course of this brief presentation this morning. We do have a good lineup, and we have it for a good reason, because we're launching a major federal effort here with the funds appropriated in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and it's going to carry on the kind of work you've seen here this morning at scale and all over the country, and also make sure that internet access is more equitable, and also that the internet availability is more widespread in a lot of inner city and rural areas that we know have struggled to get coverage. It's no surprise to any of us who know about the Kramden Institute why we chose this program for today's announcement. They've been an outstanding example for many years of promoting digital literacy across our region, offering a roadmap for continued efforts to bridge the digital divide. In an increasingly online world, you don't need to argue that this is important. It is important. It clearly is important. Connecting every household with high-speed internet is no longer a luxury, but a necessity. I think the governor said many times, and I'll say it too, it's kind of like rural electrification was in the last century. I think that is the apt analogy. Anyone who might previously have doubted this certainly has been convinced now in the course of COVID, as we've learned the importance, absolute critical importance of working and learning online. So now more than ever, the federal government needs to step up to the plate, needs to set a priority to eliminate for this country the gap between those who have access to the internet and computers versus those who do not. The divide is no longer acceptable. Now it's going to require contributions from all angles. We've got to build on the necessary infrastructure, build out the necessary infrastructure. We've got to make internet access affordable. We've got to bolster digital literacy and equity. All of those are part of the puzzle. So that's why we're so thrilled to be here today for the launch of the Internet for All initiative, to build the internet infrastructure, provide the technical digital skills, and make sure that technology is available across all of North Carolina and the United States to ensure access for all. I'm North Carolina's only member on the Appropriations Committee, so I've been closer than some to the funding issues. And I can tell you that we've reached a threshold or inflection point in terms of funding. We are going to have funding at a level that's going to permit this program to really take off. The Omnibus Appropriations Bill passed last year had a strong broadband piece, $550 million for the expansion of broadband nationwide, $450 million for the Reconnect program, providing loans and grants for physical infrastructure improvements, especially in rural areas, $382 million for the FCC to make technical and security upgrades. You add those annual appropriations to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, and you've got something. You've got a significant addition, $64 billion from the bipartisan law. So this is a genuine transformation of America's digital infrastructure that will help families get online. This is another step, of course, by the Biden-Harris administration to ensure that good-paying, quality jobs across America include all of our people, all of our communities. Federal funding is critical to this. It is going to, I think, enable us to take it off. Here in North Carolina, you're going to hear from the governor and others about the efforts underway here. North Carolina, and especially the State Broadband Office, which has greatly increased its scale and scope of efforts. We also have organizations that are facilitating this work. The Rural Center comes to mind. MCNC comes to mind. And there are a lot of efforts in county by county that some of them struggled for years to get broadband build-out in place. And now that is coming into place. In Orange County and other counties close by, you wouldn't think Orange County has a problem, but it does. Northern Orange County is not very well plugged in. And so a lot of our counties are going to now, I think, be able to take advantage of these opportunities. So it's a pleasure to join all of you today. Know that everyone here is equally committed to securing digital equity in North Carolina and across the country. And now, one of the main implementers of this program, I'm happy to turn the podium over to our Secretary of Information Technology, the North Carolina Department of Information Technology, James Weaver.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks to everyone for being here today. You know, it's interesting, when Governor Cooper brought me on board a year ago, his top priority for me was broadband expansion. In fact, I jokingly say he made me spell it backwards because that's how important it was to him at the time. But also closing the digital divide here in North Carolina. This is not an easy lift, but it was a challenge I took on, and I'm very fortunate to have a lot of my team here today who's also taken on this challenge in our Broadband Infrastructure Office and our newly created Office of Digital Equity and Literacy, which, thanks to the governor, is the first in its nation of such a focused area. We've been very blessed with transformational influx of funds from the bipartisan infrastructure law we're talking about today, as well as our own General Assembly's appropriation of more than $1 billion of the Federal American Rescue Plan Act funds. And boy, are we busy today in and out to get those funds in the hands of internet service providers, to expand internet broadband infrastructure in unserved areas of the state, as well as other programs we have in development. But our focus is more than just the build-out of infrastructure. It is on achieving digital equity for all through thorough access, affordability, and literacy. That's where organizations like Kramden come in, providing the computer equipment to local families and students and skills training. They need to use these devices. We want all North Carolinians, and more importantly, we need all North Carolinians to fully participate and succeed in the digital economy that's ahead of us here in North Carolina. We're delighted to have Governor Cooper here today, along with Secretary Raimondo and others from the U.S. Commerce Department, and cannot wait to hear more about the programs and the funding that will assist us in our efforts to close the digital divide. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for being here today, Secretary. Governor?
So I want to welcome U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo to North Carolina, and she and I are going to have a few words in just a minute. But more importantly, we want to talk to some of the families here who have benefited from the Kramden Institute. We have Natalia and Lori who are with us, also their children. So, Secretary Raimondo, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's begin this conversation with them.
Yes, well, thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. It is fantastic for me to be here today with my team. We've been looking forward to this day all week. It's exciting. I used to be a governor prior to this job, and my favorite part of being governor was getting out into the community to meet people, to meet the people who we serve, and so that's what it's all about. So, Lori, let's start with you. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and who that beautiful little girl is that you have with you, and how this has made a difference for you.
Hey, this is my granddaughter, Skylar. And of course, I'm Lori, and I am a Durham resident. I've been here, living in Durham for about 12 years. I am a part-time employee with Durham Public Schools. Kramden has helped me be able to better myself and with a better education, learning basic computer skills that I did not have, learning how to hopefully one day make a career, and maybe the administrative field, or my goal is to be able to help others the way that Kramden is helping me. And also I can, with these computer skills, I can now teach my granddaughter. It can be passed to her. I am excelling, and I want to be able to see her excel as well.
She'll be teaching you before
Yes.
long. I've already personally experienced
It looks like she's already. Did you got hardware from here as well as
I did,
training?
and I'm thankful for it because I have an old computer. I was using Vista at home, and I remember Kramden, and the first thing that I did was contact them. And I'm low income, and I called and I spoke with them, and it was very easy. And I purchased 2 computers from Kramden, very inexpensive, and that's what we're using now with a newer, like Windows. We're working on Windows 10 now, so it's a little easier, and the classes are helping me learn how to navigate on the computers.
Listen, it takes a lot of guts to go back mid-career and get new skills, courage, and so I really admire it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And thank you for working with the public schools.
Oh yes, thank you.
That matters so much. Natalia, hi. And you have your daughter with you.
Yes, it's Melissa.
Melissa. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your association with Kramden.
Yeah, so I got a computer from Kramden during the pandemic. It was very unexpected. We are a family of 4, and all of a sudden we were 4 having online classes, and we didn't have enough computers. So that's when Kramden came in and helped me with the computer, and it was really life-changing because it made it possible for me to continue my education, and the kids also had a computer for them to have in their online classes. So it was really amazing, and I was able to graduate and get my associate in art in business administration, actually. And now, last summer I transferred to UNC, Chapel Hill, so super excited.
That's great.
That's amazing. Proud of mom? Yeah.
So, when everything moves to remote learning and you don't have a device, it's a real problem.
It wasn't possible actually without the help that they offer us. I don't think we could make it, and I had to do things like let them use the only computer we had, and then after they weren't bad, then I would have to go back and watch my class that were recorded, the lectures, and stay up like the whole night.
What schooling were you doing?
I was at Central Carolina Community College.
Right. And you got your degree? Yeah. Good for you.
Education is the most important thing that I teach this to my kids. They are great students, so I'm very proud of what I have achieved, and I know what I'm going to achieve.
You will. So you're at UNC now. Nice. Well, we'll come back when you graduate. Has the computer helped you?
It was really hard having to share the computer with all of my family, with my brother and my dad and my mom. And I didn't really have the time to do all my work on the computer because I had to split up.
Did you guys do some training here at Kramden, or did you already know?
No, the training we did not. We only received the laptop.
Right. The good thing is that you can get all of those things here.
Yes, it is amazing.
That's really positive.
Actually, one of the players spoke to Rob, someone of you volunteer here. It's really amazing.
Lori, how did the computer help you at all during the pandemic?
Well, I just purchased my computer from them about 2 months ago. so I was using something really old that wasn't like working for me during the pandemic. So except for me now.
How old is Skylar?
She's 4.
School soon?
She's in school. She's in pre-K now.
Nice.
Yeah, so she know how to use an iPad, and I guess soon she'll be teaching me how to use an iPad. She's already really good on the tablet, so Android tablet. So I think she'll be teaching me as well.
What kind of advice could you guys give other people who are struggling to get online and trying to figure out ways to be able to access online, whether it's education or medicine or anything else? What would you guys say? You go first, Lauren.
For me, it's important to have computer access and to have a computer now. In my life, computers have taken over. Certain jobs now, if you don't know how to use a computer, you can't even clock in, to work. A lot of people do not know. I've asked around, have they ever heard of Kramden? And they told me no. No one knows about it. So people that I meet that are like me, close to no income or low income, I tell them about these classes. I tell them about how they can get computers because we need them. And I do explain to them that these classes are free. You just have to take the time. And if they speak with the people here at Kramden, the people here will actually help them and say, hey, you know what? We're getting so many phone calls. We're going to have classes during the day. We're going to have morning classes if you work at night. And that's the situation. They're helping me now because I work at night. And I'm like, hey, whatever you have during the day, I'm all in. So.
That's so good.
Great. What would you say?
Yeah, I think it is important to ask for help because, like you said, there's help out there, but sometimes people don't know about it. So it's really important for someone who needs to have access to know about this company, this institution, and how amazing they are, like everything they teach and the computers they can borrow. And so I think it's important to ask for help and go and fight for what you want because it's really impossible right now, I think. If you don't have this knowledge, you are left behind. So, and that's why I guess that's what we are all here trying to do, close this gap.
Yes.
So people can have access to computers, to internet. Yeah.
Do you have good internet at home?
I do.
That's good. How about you?
I have pretty good internet. It's just the pricing sometimes.
It's expensive.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we're going to pick that. We have to. It's like you said. You need it. Can't get left behind.
We've got people that can talk to you before you leave about some potential help with that if you aren't enrolled in something.
If not, we'll go to the fall.
Okay.
All right.
Guys, you did great.
You did good.
Lori told me she was nervous, but I didn't see any of that. Congressman Price, thank you for your leadership and your continued leadership through the rest of the year. Secretary Weaver and your team, thank you for the good work that you and Nate Denny and others are doing to get high-speed internet access across North Carolina. Jordan Wichard, glad to see you, our Chief Deputy Secretary of Commerce. This is all-in approach on high-speed internet access. We've got the team here. I think Kevin Monroe may be here as well, but I'm really grateful for that. I want to thank Cindy and the team here at Kramden. We've learned a lot today and are just really grateful to see what's going on to try to help people. I did establish in North Carolina our Office of Digital Equity and Literacy because we know that connecting all of the people of this state goes far beyond just laying the fiber and having the ability for people to connect. Although we still have a lot more to do on that, it goes beyond that. If you don't know how to do it, if you can't afford to access it, if you don't have a device and can't afford one, then you can't be connected. I always try to find good things out of bad things, and the good thing that has come out of this pandemic is that it has put a bright spotlight on challenges we already faced. We knew that we had to connect North Carolina with high-speed internet access, but we just didn't have the funding. People hadn't made enough of an effort to do it. Now, with the pandemic, realizing the importance of remote connections with important meetings, remote connections for education online, telemedicine, where in particular mental health has exploded online and people have been able to get access to that. We've had so many small businesses that had been struggling, but once they were able to get online, they had access to global markets, and they took off. And we've talked to so many people like that. Now we have the funding to do this. And I want to thank President Biden and Secretary Raimondo and the administration in Washington for making this a priority and for understanding that it goes beyond just laying the fiber, that we have to make sure that underserved communities can connect to the internet, that telemedicine is such a critical part of this, that people have to have the devices. So we are excited about what's going on right now. We have our growing rural economies with access to technology, our great grants, our competitive grants, where we've already used American Rescue Fund monies to begin that investment and to start that. We've already got $55 million out there, over 40,000 people connected. We're pushing people to be involved in the FCC Affordability Connectivity Program, which is, we've got a number of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who are on that. And Lori, I wanted to talk to you about that before you leave. And we're going to continue to work hand in glove with local governments, the internet service providers, and the federal government in order to get high-speed internet access across North Carolina. And today, I'm really excited to be with my friend. When she, as she mentioned, she was a governor. When she was governor of Rhode Island, I got to see her work firsthand, and she's the real deal. One of the things about President Biden is he has put highly competent people at the head of each cabinet agency. We know that for a fact from North Carolina, as the president took my Secretary of the Department of Environmental Quality and made him EPA administrator, and I was glad for the country that he did that. But also picking Rhode Island Governor Raimondo, he picked a person who is a mom, is a spouse, is a small businesswoman, was great state treasurer, and performed as a great governor of the state of Rhode Island. She had all the skills necessary to help grow our economy in the United States, and that's what's been done. So I am proud to introduce and welcome to North Carolina our country's 40th Commerce Secretary, Gina Raimondo.
Thank you, Governor. It is fantastic for me to be here. As the Governor said, he and I have known each other for a long time, and I am a huge admirer of his work. He is, I think, one of the hardest working, most effective governors in the country, and is a leader on this issue of broadband. One of the first states to have a broadband office, a Secretary of IT, and I think the first state to have the Digital Equity Office. So hope the rest of the country follows your lead, and it's an honor to call you a friend, and thank you for hosting me today. I also, of course, want to recognize Congressman Price, who has served your state for a long time and continues to do so with distinction. It's great to have you as a colleague. I mostly want to thank these women and girls behind me, Lori and Natalia, because, as I said, it takes so much courage, confidence, and plain old hard work to, at your stage of your life, go back to school, to better yourself for your kids and grandkids. And I'm going to take that home with me and use your inspiration to work a little bit harder, because that's what this is all about. So today's a big day. We chose North Carolina to announce our initiative called Internet for All. Internet for All. I hope we can agree every American deserves access to Internet. Period. I don't care if you're rich or poor, black or white, what your zip code is, if you live in rural North Carolina or in the middle of New York City. Right now, there are 30 million Americans who don't have access to Internet. And even more if you count folks who have it but can't really afford it. There's over 1 million North Carolinians who don't have access to Internet. That's not right. That isn't right. Internet is not a luxury. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. As the governor said, it's about accessing health care, about taking online classes, going to school. We saw it in the pandemic, but the reality is it's, as Lori said, you can't even clock in to work without knowing computer skills. The same is true for Internet. So today we're announcing the availability of $45 billion in funding under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This is by far the biggest investment in Internet ever in our nation's history. Every state will get an initial $5 million to build a 5-year action plan. Following that, every state will receive a minimum of $100 million. So North Carolina will receive a bare minimum of $100 million. But then the rest of the money will be divided by need. And specifically, states that have more unserved and underserved people will receive more money. Through these investments, we're going to improve the quality of life for all Americans. We have an economy where we want people to be able to participate from anywhere and compete everywhere. In the process of laying all this fiber, connecting everyone's homes, connecting everyone's apartment buildings, we're going to create over 100,000 jobs. And as part of this Internet for All initiative, we're committed to training folks to get those jobs. And by the way, I want the jobs to go to people who look like America. I will note that back there I was just taught how to refurbish a computer. And surprisingly I didn't break it. And I mention that because we're going to be training folks to lay fiber, splice cable, be technicians. Those are good jobs for women, for people of color, for folks without a college degree. And we're going to be training people, training North Carolinians to get those jobs in the process of connecting every single American. Now, this is a heavy lift. I think it was the congressman who said this is equivalent to rural electrification. And I have to thank the members of my team. The leader of our team is Alan Davidson, who is here with me. Alan is the Assistant Secretary of the division at the Department of Commerce in charge of this. His team's amazing. They have worked truly day in and day out for months to bring us to this day, to bring us to the point where we can say to the people of America and say to every governor in America, we're going to connect every American to Internet, and it starts today. And earlier, your governor said to me, North Carolina's in. North Carolina is going to be in, and they're going to apply for that money so every single North Carolinian can have reliable, high-speed, affordable Internet. I want to say one final thing, and the governor touched on this. This initiative is about access, affordability, and adoption. So number one is access. We've got to bring the Internet to everybody's home, farm, school, small business, etc. It's also about affordability. what good is it if you have internet in your home, but it's $100 a month? The average price per month in North Carolina is about $60 a month. That's a lot of money. Most people cannot afford that. So money for this initiative is also going to make sure it's affordable. And then finally, it's about making sure that people apply and that people have the digital skills and that people actually sign up. And we're going to hit every one of those because they're all important. And at the end, several years from now, we're going to come back together. We're going to celebrate the fact that under President Biden's vision, every single American has access to internet that they can afford so they can go to school, live a full life. And finally, we're going to close the digital divide and provide opportunity for everyone. So thanks you all for coming here, and thank you guys for having the guts to share your stories.
We'll take some questions right at the podium.
Sarah Kruger with WRAL. I just wanted to ask you all, I know you mentioned there would be some job training included in this, but how are you all going to really make this happen? Because it seems like funding hasn't necessarily been the impediment in the past. It was more so a labor issue. So how do you all feel you can tackle that?
First, yeah, thank you. So the way we're implementing this initiative is every state is going to have to create a state plan, which proves to us that everyone in their state will get covered at an affordable rate, and that they have job training initiatives in place to find and train enough people to do the job. And then they'll have the money from this in order to do that. So we're going to have to work hand in glove with the governor, with his workforce training initiatives. We also are going to be helping with best practices, and we're going to be working incredibly closely with the providers. So this is fundamentally a public-private partnership. You'll have, how many carriers do you have here? You have dozens of internet providers in North Carolina. The companies that are going to do the work. So it's on them to work with us to find people, train people, and put folks to work.
Do you think that can happen quickly?
I do. I think, look, we have to get it right. This is a balance between going fast and getting it right. So we're not going to rush, but yes, I do. There's a lot of folks, you just heard from Lori. She's clearly smart, clearly talented, wants a higher paying job. There's a lot of folks out there, and we have to find them, train them, and get them placed in these jobs, and I have no doubt that we'll do it.
Let me take one issue of what you said. The money really hasn't been there. I mean, we've known that we needed to tackle this issue, but one of the things that has slowed us down is the monumental investment that's going to be required. Now we actually have the money for the first time, and that's a big deal. We decided in North Carolina that we would get started early. We knew the bipartisan infrastructure money was coming, but we've already started by using American Rescue Plan funding. So we have the great grants already in place, and we're already connecting people. Now with this Internet for All effort, we are going to be all in and excited about that. Yes,
Hi, Governor. Lars Golders, News and Observer. Are you concerned that partisan politics in the legislature will interfere with dispensation of federal funds?
I believe we can work together on a solution. I will say we have had good cooperation with both Republican and Democratic leadership in putting forward the effort to make sure we're getting fiber everywhere and getting everybody connected. I think where we've had some disagreements is how much do we need to invest to make sure that people can afford to get on and that they have the devices and training to be able to get on. And so I think there are going to be ways that we can use federal money to bolster our efforts to help people afford it, like this FCC connectivity program, and the president announcing this week that for $30 a month we can get people connected to the internet. We're working on those efforts now. So I think we can get there. There's general agreement that now's the time. We've got to connect everybody to the internet.
Got time for one more.
How big of a task will this be? How many families in North Carolina need this?
So we got about 1.2 million North Carolinians on the wrong side of the digital divide. So we have a lot of work to do, and we know that we are both an intensely rural and intensely urban state, and there are different challenges in different parts of the states. One of the reasons we've done this great grant like we have is that it encourages partnerships in various areas of the state to get this done a chunk at a time. So how many applications we got? 300? 305 applications from all over the state for this next round of great grants. So we're very excited about that. And I've told the Secretary, North Carolina is going to be all in. We're going to apply for every penny that we can get. We'll put it to good use here in our state.
Thanks, y'all. That's all we've got.
Please do.
Okay.